From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Only 1 week remains until Gianforte is sworn in as Montana's 25th governor. The first Republican governor in the Big Sky state in 16 years will be taking over in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic and with a legislature firmly controlled by his own party. Well, today, Gianforte spoke with reporters about the status of filling out his new administration and plans for tackling the pandemic and the economy going forward. MTN Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison has the story.
Governor-elect Gianforte, speaking via the internet to reporters, said the number one issue for Montana is tackling the COVID-19 pandemic and that he'll be announcing new guidelines next week once he takes office. He wouldn't say what he's considering, but seemed to indicate that some restrictions in place now could be relaxed.
I've always said that the decisions we make on January 4th and beyond need to be based on the facts on the ground at that point. I would point out that we've seen a precipitous drop in the rate of the number of new infections per day. That's encouraging to me.
He did say he'll be wearing a mask in the Capitol and getting a vaccine when it becomes available to him. But he said repeatedly that Montanans should have the freedom to make their own decisions on protecting themselves and others.
I think with freedom comes responsibility, and I trust Montanans to make the right decisions for themselves and the people around them. Again, we'll get through this together.
On his cabinet, Gianforte so far has named only one nominee out of a dozen state agency heads that he must appoint. He said it's taken time to go through a crush of qualified applicants and that he'll unveil more, but not all of them, this week.
Well, I'm well over half of the 12 have been offered and accepted. We're just in the process of getting those packaged up so we can get them out to you and share the details. But I would also say that from my career of building teams, it's important. The most important thing is having the right person in the chair, not just filling a chair.
And finally, when asked about legislative priorities, Gianforte said it's outlined in his Montana comeback plan, but he cautioned that next year's budget may be tight.
I said to both the majority and the minority, if they have ideas that are consistent with that comeback plan, we're going to be supportive. As long as they fit in the overall package. We do have constraints, fiscal constraints, which is going to make it difficult for a lot of new spending.
As the incoming governor said, don't expect much in the way of surprises. He'll be trying to enact what he promised during the campaign, a more frugal and conservative state government. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Gianforte will be sworn in next Monday at a ceremony at the Capitol that will be streamed on Facebook. Well, Americans who qualify could receive $2,000 stimulus payments after the House voted to pass the Cash Act late this afternoon. That bill still has to get through the Senate, though. President Trump finally signed the government spending and COVID relief legislation last night, but said that $600 payments for those making less than $75,000 wasn't enough money. House Democrats seized on that, voting to increase the amount to $2,000, which both President Trump and President-elect Joe Biden say they do support. The question now is whether Republicans in the Senate will go along with that measure. So far, they have not committed to bring it up for a vote. We're all hoping that the flipping of the calendar to 2021 will bring with it the end of the pandemic, but many businesses may never be quite the same. So one billing staple is being proactive about getting people back in their doors, metaphorically, and it's working. Q2's Casey Conlon has our latest Rebound story.
It's hard to find any industry more affected by the COVID-19 pandemic than gyms. Normally, there are hundreds that come to the YMCA in Billings every day for group exercise classes. But there are many who just don't feel comfortable in that kind of setting right now. And the YMCA says, hey, that's fine. You don't have to come here. You can come
here. Because the Y now offers all of its classes, both in person and online through Zoom.
All right. It's just been crucial because not everybody can come in on whatever their story is. They can still go to their normal favorite ones, know that they're there at the same time, the same day, the same instructor, and have access to all of it.
The Y recently purchased new cameras and audio equipment that give their online participants a much better experience. And it's paying off, not only with old members returning, but with brand new members solely using the virtual offerings.
We have people from out of state joining the Y, which is just awesome. We have like Maryland and North Dakota and like all these crazy places that they talk to their sister and they're like, hey, this is an option for you. You can just do the, get a membership and you can do these classes with me. And instead we have siblings doing it from different states. And like, it was just not expected, but definitely rewarding for our facility.
So I'm gonna face the camera here.
It's been a long ride to get here. The beginnings of the pandemic had everybody scrambling.
I was literally Zooming classes in from my house through all of shelter in place. And then once shelter in place got lifted, we did classes outside only. Once summer hit, we did a hybrid of outside, inside, and then this fall we did a hybrid of inside and Zoom classes.
That's why the Y has seen more success than most. The willingness to go many extra miles for that sense of community the organization has cultivated for years.
As long as I felt like we were keeping people on track with their fitness and some form of structure and interacting with us, I was like, I will do whatever.
Even if we have, 3 or 4 people online, it doesn't matter. Those people are being active and they have an option saying, this is making a big difference, or people joining the Y because now they have access to these classes again. It's definitely made the growing pains worth it.
And now they're set up for a system many people believe is here to stay.
We have to prepare for that. Like virtual is like the new thing. For some people, it's a convenience thing. Obviously at the Y, we're all about community, right? And people want to be here and be in person, but if you can't, I think it's here to stay. So we'll just keep adapting and adjusting and make the most of it.
The longer the pandemic goes, the better at that the Y seems to be. Casey Conlon, MTN News.
Thanks, Casey. And to put into perspective how many classes the Y offers, there were 18 today alone. You can purchase a membership on their website at billingsymca.org. Well, MTN is reporting an increase of 515 COVID-19 cases in our state since yesterday. But the good news, active cases have dropped by nearly 700. In addition, there's been 12 new deaths related to the virus. Those deaths come from Silverbow, Yellowstone, Jefferson, Dawson, and Sanders counties. In all, Montana is reporting more than 80,000 cases, with 974 dying from the virus so far this year. Billings police are still investigating a shooting at a local bar. Early Sunday morning, a suspect fired multiple shots at Shooter's Bar and Casino at 1600 Avenue D. No one was injured. As of now, there's no word if police have someone in custody or what led to that shooting. Well, a 27-year-old Helena man currently on parole for attempted sexual assault of a girl under the age of 10 here in Billings back in 2013, now accused of molesting a child on Christmas. Delane Davis appeared via video in Justice Court on Monday for a felony charge of sexual assault. According to court documents, Friday evening, Lewis and Clark County deputies were notified of an alleged sexual assault involving Davis and a girl under the age of 12. The girl accused Davis of touching her while she was in bed and says that he ran from the room once he noticed that she was awake. Bond was set at $40,000. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks have put out a new consumption advisory for fish between the Bitterroot, Clark Fork, and Flathead rivers.
The primary species that this covers are northern pike and rainbow trout, because those are the species that we tested for contaminants, specifically dioxins, furans, and coplanar PCBs. But we include all fish in this because of the similar life histories, diets, and ages of other fish in the river. So even though we didn't test brown trout, smallmouth bass, or other fish, they probably contain similar levels of contaminants. So we don't have data to rule them out.
FWP also says to be wary of eating fish along parts of the river that were not tested. The latest guidance: eat smaller fish, avoid certain species of fish like northern pike, remove the skin of the fish when you do cook, and don't eat the entrails. Up next on tonight's Q2 530 News, a look inside Montana's very first crisis nursery and the meaning behind the mission. Also ahead, a look back in time with Bob McGuire as he inches closer to retirement.
And coming up in the weather, hey, I tell you what now, what's the last week of the year look like? Well, it looks like this. Eastern Montana's going to see a gradual warming and some wind. Out west could see maybe some showers midweek and flooding concerns in the western rivers. We'll have more about it in a few more minutes.